Hello and welcome to another coaching session from leadershipmentor.com. Well, as we start a new year, I wanted to start to circle back with some of the foundational things that we've been coaching in our free sessions. And one of the things I think is so key to what we should learn as new leaders is how to effectively coach somebody. And so I want to go back through this idea and share with you some what I think is some pretty critical thoughts about how to effectively coach. So I like to start off oftentimes with really defining what we're talking about. And when we're talking about coaching, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. So the idea with coaching somebody is that we want to either change negative behavior or we want to reinforce positive behavior. And both of these are critical. And oftentimes we see with new leaders that we only do this coaching process when somebody does something wrong. And even if we do that well, the problem with that is the idea of reinforcing positive behavior so it continues doesn't really happen. And so we have to balance these two and should be doing both of those areas. So the focus is on future success, not on past failures, and we talk a lot about that. The idea here again is that we need to address, if it's something that we're trying to change negative behavior, we need to address the behavior that we observe, but at the same time, that's not the sole focus of our coaching session, right? It's not just to sit them down in a room and say, this is what you did and this is what's going to happen if you do it again. That's not really a coaching session. The first step, maybe, is identifying that behavior very specifically so the person knows exactly what they did. But the intent of coaching and the whole coaching process is to move them through to change that behavior. So I want to talk about the power of responsibility. And coaching without responsibility is just a conversation. And that's just simply a statement to help you kind of get the idea that when you sit down with somebody and you just tell them something, that is just a conversation, really just a one-sided conversation. So we have to put in there this idea of responsibility. So we have to instill a sense of commitment, and that'll allow the person to increase their performance overall. And so we want to talk about choice. When told what to do, I blame you. And you've heard me say this before if you've been a community member for a while. The idea is simply that if I tell you how to do something and you do it and it doesn't work for whatever reason, then it's easy for me to simply blame you. You told me what to do, I did it, it didn't work, it's your fault. There's no ownership in that. And that's key in the coaching process. It's so key that the person, the team member can take ownership and responsibility moving forward. So we would want to say something like, well, let's come up with some options and you choose the solution. So that's one way of gaining that responsibility. So what we want to do in our coaching process is first we want to clearly state the behavior that we're talking about if we're trying to change negative behavior. If we're trying to change or reinforce positive, we would still do the same thing. We want to make sure they clearly know what we're praising them for. This is what you did. This is the effect that it had, and to reinforce that to be repeated. Now, again, back to the negative aspect of it, so that we're trying to change that negative behavior, we would define what we observed. I like to talk about what the impact of that behavior is, whether it's to other team members or to the organization in terms of costs, or maybe even to a customer, for example. And then we need to move into creating this ownership. And so I might say to somebody, this is what you did. So give me some thoughts about how you can change this behavior to produce a better outcome. So even if you have a really firm idea of what you want the ultimate um, goal or objective to be, it's important that we don't just come right out and tell them that. Coaching is a process of getting the team member there more on their own, and so we want to lead them there. And so we would say, so give me two options that'll help you be on time on a consistent basis. And so the idea is that they have to think about it. They come up with a solution. They come up with another solution. And this kind of opens the door for you to have some involvement in terms of like which one is a better solution, but important that these are their solutions. And so as we go through this process, and ultimately we say, okay, so what you said was, and you repeat that, and then at the end of a coaching session, we always want to have the person come back and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I've committed to. This is what we've talked about. And that really solidifies the fact that it's their idea, they're responsible and accountable for that outcome, not you. And so that's really coaching in a very quick nutshell. And so I hope you found this helpful. I hope that when we coach, we can go through this process of both the two different directions of coaching, both to reinforce positive behavior and also to change that negative behavior. Those are coaching processes that are very critical. So I hope you found that helpful. Hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you again soon.